Hello, everyone. Before we start this show, I'd like to take care of some housekeeping, and I'm doing so in my best NPR impression. So go ahead and follow The Motley Experience on Twitter and Instagram. That's at Motley Experience, MotleyExperience. Yes, the E in experience is not there. That's because Twitter, when I first made the Twitter handle for this, had, and it might still have, a character max. And so the first E was our sacrifice to the Twitter gods so we could get that handle up and running. And so please forgive me for any confusion. So themotleyexperience.com, spelt out the full way, and at Motley Experience on all social media, specifically Twitter and Instagram. So check that out. If you want to refer to this show, use hashtag StuffExplained. I would love to build a community around the topics and especially the big ideas discussed. Get some discourse, honest, open, as friendly as possible discourse. It doesn't even have to be agreeing with what I said. It could be some respectful and polite disagreement even. I just think it would be great to sort of build that community and have people engaged and discussing thoughts and opinions and sharing them, and maybe we can break down some walls and cross some barriers and whatever other metaphor or alliteration is out there for people coming together. As for me, you can follow me if you wish at ATMarousas. That's ATMAROUSAS everywhere. Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. There's also my personal website, atmarousas.com, that basically describes all the projects I'm involved in, including and especially the Motley Experience blog and this podcast. So this is going on a little bit now. It's continuing as I wait here awkwardly, not knowing how to end this. Still here. All right, we're getting to the show. Life is a journey of exploration, learning, and growth. Basically, the world is full of fascinating stuff. Join me, Aristidis Marousas, as I uncover interesting facts and discuss big ideas on Stuff Explained from the Motley Experience. Experience your world. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this episode of Stuff Explained from the Motley Experience. This is another big idea episode, so just throwing out some food for thought for all of you lovely listeners. And the topic I would like to discuss this week is making space. So before you roll your eyes, or perhaps you know someone who would roll their eyes, I understand this might come across as some new age, snowflake type of ideology that has risen up in the last few years. However, I would like to just provide my point of view. In my own personal experience, I have seen this work for myself and for others, and I believe it's something that might be a bit misunderstood. And so I'd like to take some time and just discuss what is making space, how can we do it, what are the benefits, and hopefully it's something you can enjoy, appreciate, and if possible, maybe even apply in your lives if you haven't done so already. So let's get to it. So, making space. What is this concept, basically? And again, everything I say here is really from my own experience, from my own studies and research and things like that. So you don't have to take it for gospel. If you have different experiences with it, feel free to share, directly or on Twitter or whatnot. But for me, making space is you're creating room, sometimes literally, but usually it's not literal, obviously, creating room for people to express themselves freely. So as long, obviously, as it doesn't cross your own boundaries or harm anybody, you're creating an environment for that person or persons to freely and expressively share their thoughts and emotions. Now, this may seem pretty commonsensical, and you might even think, well, I do this already. That's what I thought as well. But take into consideration an example of a time that you've gone to a parent or friend and you've had an issue and you've been really frustrated or wanted to cry, or there was just a lot of pent-up emotion, and all you really wanted to do, and maybe in the moment you didn't really realize this is what you wanted, was to let that out. You just wanted another human being to be there and stand by you as you let all of this out, and just to be there and be supportive. But what usually happens, and I've been guilty of it, is when someone is doing that, your initial instinct, either because you care about them and you want them to feel better immediately, or because you're made uncomfortable and you want to get away from that situation as fast as possible, is to shut them down, which is basically a worst case scenario where you're like, I don't have time for this, or like tell someone who cares type of thing, whether it's worded that way or not. Or you're telling them it's going to be okay, everything will work out, like there's always tomorrow, more fish in the sea, whatever the issue is. They're basically trying to say like, oh, it's not as bad as you're making it out to be. And they're doing this from a place of goodness. They want to help you. But in reality, those words don't help, because they're basically saying that you're making this out to be more than it is. They might not even mean that. They might not consciously mean it, but words have weight to them. And what those words are doing, even if you're consoling someone, is essentially saying you are overreacting to this situation. And that's why I believe a lot of people get even more frustrated. I've been there too, when all I really want someone to do is to just listen. Just please just listen. Don't try to fix it. Don't even give me your opinion, honestly, because it's just going to frustrate me more. Just allow me this space to be upset. And whether it's just sitting there and, holding a hand, or, it doesn't even have to necessarily be physical touch, but just to know that they're there, they're understanding you, they are not passing judgment, they're listening to you, they're allowing you to be, they're allowing you to feel these feelings. That's what making space means. And making space doesn't even have to be limited to what we'd consider sadder emotions. If someone's feeling angry or frustrated, as long as they are not endangering anybody or attacking anyone, or, focusing that anger and frustration towards you, the listener, it's perfect. People get angry and frustrated. We don't like negative emotions to begin with, but we're a lot more considerate of sad emotions than we are angry emotions. And I know I've been in situations where either someone has been angry in my presence, or I've been angry and frustrated, and it gets misconstrued that it's personal when it's not personal. I could just be frustrated at a situation, and you happen to be there, and I'm frustratedly, if that's even a word, trying to explain my feelings and the frustration and anger and everything at this particular situation. But because of how we react in general to people being angry, we try to shut that emotion down, calm down, take a breath, and in most cases that only serves to pour gasoline onto the flame, so it doesn't really work really well. So there's a difference between someone being frustrated and raising their voice out of just sheer emotion, and it being directed at you. So this is something else to take into consideration when you're making space. And this is something that happens a lot in relationships, whether it's just a friendship relationship or maybe a romantic relationship. Everything becomes so super personal. And if you really want to attempt to make space for one another, this is so important, is to take yourself out of the equation. What that person is going through most likely has nothing to do with you. But if they're just coming to you to vent about something, and this is important, you accept that role, because you also have the ability to say, no, this is crossing my boundary. I don't want to be subjected to this. And this is important in parent-child relationships, and maybe workplace relationships, and maybe even friendships, and maybe even romantic relationships. There comes a point where you really have to cut that off and you're not that person's therapist. Your purpose isn't to make them feel better. If you want to be there and be there for them, that's great. But saying no doesn't make you a bad person if you're protecting yourself. If you're just doing it to sort of run away because you just can't be bothered, that, maybe something you should reflect on. But if you really think that it's harmful to you or to the relationship, or that it'll really put you into a bad mood, if you believe in energy, if it's something that you think will be draining to your energy, or if it's just something that will just put you in a bad mental health space. Sometimes hearing someone complain about the same thing for the 1,534th time in a week, it's a lot. So keep in mind, boundaries are very important in making space and help you to define that space you're creating. But if you do agree and you are there for them, you're not there to fix it. And you can always ask that question. Like, hey, are you here just to vent to me? If so, that's fine. Are you here to bounce ideas off of me and to hear my ideas? Yes, no, and then just go with that if you're comfortable. But again, it's okay for people to yell. It's okay for people to laugh, to cry, any kind of emotion. It's your body wanting to get it out. There's something going on internally that wants to be put out. People say emotion is just energy in motion. And I've come to find that's true, that something, for whatever reason, whether it's triggers or trauma or anything, your body is reacting to some sort of stimulus, and it's trying to get that out of your system. And sometimes that means you have to yell at the top of your voice. That means sometimes you just have to laugh hysterically. Sometimes that means you just have to sob so hard your face hurts. Whatever it is, it's perfectly natural. It's just whatever your body's reaction is, and everyone's body is different. Everyone's emotional reactions, history, experiences are all different too. And so if we want to move forward in making space with people, we have to understand this and be able to comfortably sit in their presence as they're going through whatever it is they are going through. Psst, hey you. Yeah, you over there listening to Stuff Explained from the Motley Experience. So if you're already listening to Stuff Explained from the Motley Experience, why not take that next step and head on over to themotleyexperience.com/connect. Then all you got to do is enter your email address and you instantly become a part of the Motley Experience community. By doing this, you'll get the weekly insider newsletter that gives you all the latest and greatest from the Motley Experience, including updates from your favorite podcast, Stuff Explained. Again, themotleyexperience.com/connect. There's absolutely nothing like having custom-made quality music for whatever your project might be. So if you're in the market for custom-made music, look no further than Retcon Industries. They provide tailor-made music for all sorts, whether it's professional wrestling, podcasts, trailers, and so much more. They can do it for you. So for more information, go to www.retconindustries.com or email my good friend Greg at retcongreg@gmail.com. Retcon Industries can also be found on Facebook and on Instagram at Retcon Industries. That's RETCON Industries. To me, the concept of making space also goes beyond allowing a person to emotionally express themselves. It also means creating space, creating an environment for people to act and behave as themselves. And this, I think, would be very important in relationships, in friendships, and in family relationships, especially parents and children. You want to create a space where they can do what they think is best, even if you believe them to be wrong. Now, I would say there's an age minimum for this. Obviously, you're not going to let your 3-year-old decide it's okay to run on the street if that's what they want to do. But after a certain point, you need to let go of those reins and understand that your job as a parent, once you decide to have children, is to help them grow and be as healthy and as educated as possible, so that they can then take control of their own lives. And it's not up to you to control their every single move. You'll have friends, you'll have family members who will do things that you may vehemently disagree with. But at the end of the day, it's not your role to change that. You can have some commentary if you want, as long as it comes from a respectful and loving place, and that it's coming from a place for their own well-being and not for your well-being. And that's something that we get tripped up on a lot, where we want what's best for our family or friends because it serves us in some way. Now, whether that's financial, whether that's some sort of respect or influence or something along those lines, some sort of status that you get for being involved with them, whatever it might be, it's important that when we do go up to someone and say, hey, I love you, I care about you, you're doing this and I don't really understand it, or I'm worried that it might not be what's best for you, it might be hurting other people, whatever it might be, just make sure you're doing it from a loving and caring place. So to get back on topic, making space is allowing room for them to do this. They might make a mistake, it might actually be a mistake, but how are they going to learn from it otherwise? Just think back to your own life. All the lessons you've learned, the truly valuable lessons, have they been learned just from listening to someone else? Or have they been learned through experience, through practice, through making mistakes and realizing the truths that come from making that mistake, that come from practicing, quote, good advice, and realizing that is good advice, or maybe it isn't? I feel like we learn the most from experience as opposed to what we are taught, as opposed to dogma, for example. So making spaces is that. It's making room in your relationships with people to allow them to really live their lives as they feel fit, to let them express themselves. There's, in my opinion, no real truer form of love when it comes to relationships than being there for someone when they're at their best, their worst, their middle, and just loving them for it and accepting them for it. And if you can give some advice, do it. If they don't take it, that can be frustrating, but you have to let them live their own lives. Also, being there for them, going back to what we talked about in the beginning of this episode with emotions, just letting them have those emotions. We have that need to just say, no, it's going to be okay, it's going to be okay. Well, that person in the middle of all that despair, they can't even think that way. Think to the last time you were hysterical about something. I remember the last time I was, and someone telling me it's going to be okay did not make me feel better. What you really want is just an embrace. You want to feel like things are going to be better. You don't want to hear that. You want to feel comfort. You don't want words. Words don't help in a situation like that for the most part. What you really want is just that feeling. You want to feel like you are listened to, that what you are saying matters, that what you are feeling matters, that your problems matter. One of the worst, most hurtful things you can do is when someone's experiencing a problem, something that is so painful for them, you make them feel like that problem doesn't matter or isn't as problematic as that person is experiencing it. Don't take away people's hurt and struggle. You might think you're doing a good thing, but you are not. You need to allow them to experience it, let them know it's okay to experience it, and let them know that you are there for them throughout the entire process. And that is how you let them know that things will be okay. So, that I think I did a pretty decent job summarizing this idea of making space. It's pretty straightforward when you explain it. Practicing it, obviously a bit different. It's difficult to just sit there, especially when it's someone you care about who's hurting, and to let that hurt come out without you wanting to tell them, hey man, like it's okay. Everything's going to be okay. We need to try to avoid doing that, and instead of using the word, show through action, show through sitting there. Sometimes all we can do is sit there and be quiet, and just be quiet and let them know that we're listening to them. We're not just sitting there awkwardly. We are listening to them. We are letting them be, and if they have a hysterical fit, they might be embarrassed afterwards, letting them know that, hey, no, that's fine. This is all part of the human experience. We all go through it. And also realize that for them to allow themselves to have that experience around you, or more importantly, a better way to word this, for them to allow you to be around in such a vulnerable experience speaks volumes to the trust, to the need they have for your presence. So don't disrespect that. Don't discount that. It's not often that people open themselves up to others when they are at their most vulnerable. So if you are there, you need to be thankful and respect that this other human being thinks highly enough of you or needs you enough to bring you into this process. Now, whether it's their depths of despair, rage, or maybe they just want to really celebrate something super awesome and you're one of the people that they want to celebrate it with. Highs, lows, in between. It is so vital. So keep that in mind going forward. If you have any thoughts on this, I mentioned it at the beginning of the show, and I'll probably mention it in the closing of the show while the credits are rolling, so to speak. Reach out at the Motley Experience. I see the stats. I know you guys are listening, and I thank you so much for that. Let's take it to the next level. Let's take it to the next step. Hashtag Stuff Explained. Let's get people looking at this. If you think that this is a good service, if you think this is a good podcast, rate it on Apple Podcasts, wherever else, that you can rate this. Reach out to me on Twitter, on Instagram, at ATMarusas for my personal accounts, or at Motley Experience for the blog and podcast accounts. Let me know what you think. Let me know of your own personal experiences with making space or with any other big idea episode that we've discussed. Have you tried to implement it? What was the reaction? What issues have you faced within this? Do you think I'm wrong? Why am I wrong? I just want to know. I want to start this discourse and just see where it takes us. I have a good feeling about it, honestly. I think some good can be done, and I'm excited about that. But I can't do it alone. I need my listeners. I need the listeners of Stuff Explained, you wonderful people, to get on and just share. Share your experience if you feel comfortable doing so, your thoughts and so on and so forth. So before I keep ranting, as I am wont to do, I'm going to end it here. Thank you again very, very much for listening. I will be speaking to you next week. Stuff Explained is written and produced by me, Aristidis Marusas. Music is produced by the talented Greg Massey of Retcon Industries. Visit themotleyexperience.com for more thoughtful original content, and you can also find links to the sources used for each episode of Stuff Explained. Like us on Facebook at The Motley Experience, follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Motley Experience, and use the hashtag Stuff Explained. If you like this episode, leave a review, subscribe, and share with a friend. Thank you for listening.